Greetings everyone, my name is Raziel and welcome back everyone to yet another reveal video. This time we are taking a look at some cards for the new Genestealer Cults from Warpforge. I know that is the main reason why you are all here, so let's get started immediately. Firstly, we have a Trap Sprung, which is a 5 energy stratagem with the effect to deal 4 damage to a random enemy, which is then repeated for every sabotage card in the enemy hand. In case you are unable to catch the previous reveals, sabotage cards are cards that you add to your opponent's hand. These cards have passive effects that disrupt your opponent, but can be played like normal cards by spending energy. However, they all have no effect when being played, so your opponent will need to choose between wasting tempo on getting rid of them or suffering the passive downside over and over. The Trap Sprung seems like a very good card to me. 5 energy for 4 damage is already okay, but being able to repeat this effect a number of times has the potential to be insanely strong if you can keep the enemy board small and the amount of sabotage cards in the enemy hand high. In the end, it will probably depend on how reliable you can sabotage your opponent. Next, we have the Improvised Barricade, a 3 energy sabotage card with no effect. This card's only use is to sit in the enemy hand, taking up a card slot, while being relatively expensive to get rid of. This makes it a perfect tool to combo with cards like the previous Trap Sprung, as your opponent is not that likely to get rid of the barricade since it itself doesn't have any negative impact on the enemy plays. Following this, we have the the Hive Fleet Arrival, which is a 10 energy stratagem with the effect to deal damage to all enemies equal to the amount of cards in the enemy's hand. If you're a veteran from HHL like me, you will be very familiar with this kind of card. This card is essentially the same as the card The Harrowing from the Alpha Legion in that game, which had the exact same effect. And just like the Genestealers, the Alpha Legion specialized in disruption, making the Harrowing a staple card for every Alpha Legion deck. And to be honest, I expect this card to also become a staple for every Genestealer deck out there. Lastly, we have the Clamavus. A 5 energy troop with 4 melee, 3 ranged and 5 HP, as well as the rally effect to stun an enemy unit. This alone is a pretty solid card. Again, just like the Alpha Legion in HHL, troops with the ability to stun on rally are very good for this kind of disruptive playstyle, even if their stats are slightly below average. I fully expect the Clamavus or however you want to pronounce it, to also be a staple for every Genestealer deck out there, just like the Hive Fleet Arrival. Now, the Clamavus also has a talent, the Vox Hacker. The Vox Hacker is a 1 energy card that lets you choose and add a sabotage card to the enemy hand. So not only does the Clamavus provide you with a stun, it is also able to fill up the enemy hand with sabotages if the enemy fails to kill it fast enough. A task made difficult given the Clamavus' ability to stun on rally. Generally, the Clamavus seems to me like it will be a very strong card for most decks, or at least it has the potential to be if the Genestealer Cults play it like the Alpha Legion does in HHL. And that was it. Those were all cards I got for you today. I'm gonna go over them all once again in case you were late for the reveals. First, we had a solid 5 energy stratagem that could potentially be very threatening late game as a finisher. Then we had a sabotage card that was very expensive to get rid of that combos very well with our first card. Next up, we had the Harrowing but in Warpforge, which should be a staple for every deck. And finally, we had a great 5 energy troop that provides not only stun disruption, but also a consistent access to sabotage cards via its talent. What are your thoughts on these cards? I personally like the direction the faction seems to be taking. They remind me a lot of the pre-rotation Alpha Legion playstyle that I really loved playing, and many players despised facing. So I would say that the faction overall is headed into a glorious direction. That's all from me for today. Thank you all for watching and Everguild for trusting me with these reveals, and I hopefully will see you all again in the near future.